brother. It's time for another episode of Birds with Friends. Just the
Duo.
Of feathery brethren, weathering any season to see the Eagles eating teams like Scrammy's top with cheese. It's Philadelphia. Bo and Zach kicking it cooler than
Two.
Penguins till Zach runs off with his valet keys. He's a real nuanced goose. Pull up a branch, get loose. It's time for some juice on some
Birds with Friends.
The early bird gets the worm, but prefers getting turned like a turn on some
Birds with Friends.
Bo and Zach coming at you with stats and things flapping.
We
their
are
wings
going
on.
to rip out the hearts of other podcasts. We are going to bite off their eyeballs. We're going to start every segment watching the scene from The Last of the Mohicans where the guy takes a bite out of the other guy's heart. We may not be good, but we're going to be nasty. We're going to reflect the blue-collar nature of this city. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Thanksgiving Eve edition of Birds with Friends. Bo, Zach, and Marissa here to talk about what we've learned in the past few days since the Eagles came back to beat the Indianapolis Colts, what we think is going to happen over the next 4+ days ahead of Sunday night's game against the Green Bay Packers. We've got a swooper to get to. It's a double dip episode. Marissa, how you doing?
I'm doing great. You are not home, so I'm a little worried about your Wi-Fi. But so far so good. So fingers
Got a
crossed.
hotspot too. We got some backup options here.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
we'll see how it goes. You
Yeah.
guys are capable. You don't need me.
How are you guys doing? Ready for Thanksgiving?
Love a Thanksgiving.
Zach, you're muted.
Wow, Zach's muted. Talk about. I mean, the guy's playing at home and he can't be ready.
Thanksgiving's my favorite holiday, so I'm doing great. This is a great time of year right now. We have this pod tonight, which I was excited for, and then tomorrow there's still I'm excited.
Okay.
Family, food, and football tomorrow. There's a big
Three
U.S. soccer.
Three of the big 4 Fs. You know.
There's a big U.S. soccer game on Friday. Back at Eagles practice on Friday, and then Saturday, an amazing day of college football, and Sunday Eagles Packers. So what a week that we're about to embark upon.
If you had to peck nest migrate Thanksgiving, football, and college football, how would you do it?
Good one.
Well, I would nest Thanksgiving, right? Nothing's more important than my family. And I would peck football, and I would migrate college football in that case.
I thought maybe figured you would nest football because you could. I mean, you have one last go round with Thanksgiving. You do it up big. I mean, you can still see your family. I'm not saying you have to excommunicate yourself from ever seeing your loved ones again.
I would have done the same, Zach. That would have been
Thank you, Marissa. Kindred spirits.
Yeah.
I mean, you're nesting a thing that's once a year versus something that's like 17 Sundays.
I think you are overanalyzing the.
What's the point of the show other than to overanalyze nonsense?
The point of the show, if we want to actually discuss it, is to talk about the Eagles, right, with friends.
That's debatable.
Which we are doing here.
Marissa, peck nest migrate, turkey, sides, desserts.
Ooh, good one. I would definitely migrate turkey. I don't know. Growing up, I would have always said like nest desserts, but I think it might be switched now. So I think I would nest sides and peck desserts. What about you?
I think turkey gets a bad rap. Everybody's.
I mean, I like it, but it's not my favorite.
The
like
turkey is
the
the worst part of Thanksgiving. You're eating bad turkey. I like having a nice, well done Thanksgiving turkey. I don't mean like well done, overcooked. I mean prepared well.
I actually like the ham better, like a cooked ham better than
I'm not with you. I'm turkey over ham all day.
Zach?
I like all the food at the Thanksgiving table, but if you
all
want
the comments, nobody likes turkey. Turkey's terrible. Turkey's trash. You guys are trash.
So I'm a dessert guy, right? So give me the desserts all year long.
What's your ideal Thanksgiving dessert?
It's interesting you asked that because Emily brought that up to me recently, and I don't associate dessert with Thanksgiving. So whatever is, I associate it more with the turkey and the sides. But anything that is freshly baked, I have a soft spot for.
What's your favorite pie?
what's my favorite pie is so down in North Carolina, right by where you went to college. There's a place, the Agnes Barn,
Okay.
right? And they have this.
Never heard of it.
You never heard of the Agnes Barn? Okay.
No.
They
Is
have
that where they have the Pizookie?
No, they have something called the chocolate chess pie.
Okay.
Which
Yeah,
is a southern.
I know a chess pie.
Yeah, and so that's really good. And then if you've ever been to Louisville, Kentucky, they have a Derby pie, and Derby pie jumps out to me. I had like an incredible piece of Derby pie when I was in Louisville.
Big flex. All right.
Never heard of Derby pie, but
What is Derby pie? I think I've heard of it,
chocolate
but
and
I actually
walnut open-faced custard pie baked in a pie shell.
All right. Fair enough.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, we have like a little tiny bit of Eagles news to talk about. Not a ton happening at the NovaCare complex. It's a bit of a lighter week, less access than usual because of Thanksgiving, but some little nuggets and morsels of information seeping their way through. And so we send it over to the stone cold newsman, Zach Berman himself, the award-winning journalist who covers the Eagles for The Athletic. What's the latest happening with the 9-1 league-leading Philadelphia Eagles?
I lost my audio here.
We hear you.
But okay.
Where did you leave it?
So the big news so far is Josh Jobe. Well, I shouldn't say the big news. The injury news is Josh.
The big news so far is Josh Jobe?
The injury news is Josh Jobe is the only Eagle who did not practice.
That's a drop.
Therefore,
overused. That's a drop, but that's a drop.
The Eagles have a healthy roster, relatively speaking, among the 53 players on the roster going into this Packers game. Josh Jobe is the only player who did not practice today, or would not have practiced. They had a walkthrough.
Why didn't they put Josh Jobe on IR?
The bigger piece. We can get to that in a moment.
I'll just on IR 4 weeks ago.
The bigger news is Marcus Brady, the former Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator, is joining the Eagles as a consultant. This was broken by Tim McManus of ESPN and Stephen Holder of ESPN, formerly of The Athletic. And Marcus Brady, who was fired by Frank Reich before Frank Reich himself was fired, joining as a consultant, and apparently will work with Jonathan Gannon. As you see this on a few staffs where they bring an offensive mind to consult with the defensive coach, or a defensive mind to consult with the offensive coach. So I don't think it's earth-shattering by any means, but there's fortification for the coaching staff here for the next few weeks. Back to you in the studio, Bo.
Thanks, Zach. Let's unpack this big news. What do you make of the Josh Jobe situation?
So the big news I was going to say was the healthy roster. Okay. It was your laugh threw me off. I was setting it up to say the big news is that Josh Jobe is the only player on the 53-man roster who was not participating. So I understand Dallas Goedert's on IR, Jordan Davis is on IR, but they came out of the Colts game healthier than obviously the Commanders game the week before, which is a good situation for the Eagles going into Sunday, because I've been tied up the past few hours. I was writing a story that's now on The Athletic with a handful of items, including Nick Sirianni, having Jonathan Gannon's back, and some more information on the fourth down that or the timeout before the 2-minute warning, the uniforms that the Eagles are wearing this weekend. But I had saw something scroll across that Aaron Rodgers has a thumb injury. Is that correct?
Broken thumb.
Through it. Yes. So
since week 5, he said.
Wow.
I mean, does anybody in the world make more excuses than Aaron Rodgers?
But so certainly the Eagles entering this game healthier on the 53-man roster than the Green Bay Packers, if the Packers quarterback is dealing with.
And they've had some of their other good players go on IR recently, right?
Yep.
So yeah, they are certainly less healthy than the Eagles. I want to talk about some of those things that were in your notebook that's up now, Zach. I think the first thing I want to talk about is the the macro dynamic that you asked Nick Sirianni about today, where he went on WIP on Monday morning, his usual post-game morning after hit. And I guess the week before they had a poll question like, should Jonathan Gannon be fired or something like that?
Yep.
And so he said the poll question this week should be, is Jonathan Gannon the assistant coach of the year? But I guess it's fair to say that it is like very much on Nick Sirianni's radar, the degree and level of criticism that his defensive coordinator gets. And so he has gone out of his way to gas him up.
Exactly. That was the impetus of the question, was that if you listen to the interview with the morning show on WIP, it wasn't as if Gannon came up in conversation. Like Nick was getting off the phone and he brought it up. And part of it was poking them for the poll question last week, but it was very intentional that he publicly wanted to have his defensive coordinators back. And he was emphatic today. Like he wanted to talk about it at the press conference today. About Gannon, and basically said that he was talking about how good a coach Gannon is, how he's happy Gannon's his defensive coordinator. Talked about how the stats that they care about, which besides scoring defense, are takeaways and explosive plays. The Eagles are up there. They're number 1 in the NFL in takeaways. They're number 7, tied for 6th in explosive plays allowed based on their formula, which is 16-plus yard passes, 10-plus yard rushes. If you go with Shields' formula, which I believe the Seahawks used, which is 12-plus yard rushes, then actually the Eagles fare even better. So they might want to change the formula to make it look even better for them. But as I was crunching those numbers today, it turns out they give up a lot of rushes between 10 and 12 yards relative to other teams, right? Because that made a huge difference in where they rank. But anyways, Sirianni was speaking about what he likes about Gannon. And he said that he wants Gannon to be here as long as he's the head coach, but he doesn't anticipate that happening.
Yeah, that was interesting. He really was all in about the fact that this guy's going to be a head coach like very soon.
Yes, and so the line I had in my story is that like they're expecting Gannon not to be here at some point, but not for the reason of the poll question last week. And look, we've discussed Gannon ad nauseum here. I don't think any of our loyal listeners need us to go back in that conversation. I mean, that's well explored. But the part of it that jumped out to me was, like you said, how attentive they are to the criticism. You hear sometimes where they say, don't listen to the outside noise. But this particular piece of criticism, I think the organization is sensitive to, because I think that they believe Gannon's better than the perception might be, but also because I think they're kind of fighting against this brand of football, if you will, that is almost fundamentally different, or I shouldn't say fundamentally different, but tangentially different than what they are playing, and that's not going to change. Like they're not going to adopt Buddy Ryan's defense. They're not going to adopt Jim Johnson's defense. So I think they're trying to educate as far as to the type of defense that they're playing.
Marissa, all over the horny sex bots in the chat, coming out early on a Thanksgiving Eve, looking for some action. I think that's well said, Zach. Speaking of Sirianni being a little rabbit-eared, did you get the impression today that he does not know my name?
No, I didn't get that impression at all.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes,
talking about Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown's friendship. He said they sit right where Zach and where they sit. Like he's like he couldn't come up with my name.
Well, no, because I don't know if AJ Brown sits in your seat. So
I think that is exactly what he was saying. That they sit where you and I sit, which makes sense. We're best friends and we're the two best players on the team.
You've gotten Bo quite a bit from him, so he definitely
have. I?
Yes.
I don't know. That was a bit of an ego hit. I felt like he took me down a peg, which maybe it was intentional. Maybe that was his point. was to make sure that I'm not too big for my britches. Yeah,
I'm
he
saying
sits
far
right
away
where
from that one.
Zach and I don't know whatever this white guy is over here. I don't recognize him. That's probably that's what I think. That was the subtext.
I don't believe that was the subtext whatsoever.
You don't think so? Rewatch it for the listeners. I think it's pretty clear that it's a dig.
I
Fair
think
enough.
you're well known in that building.
I mean, maybe by Bo Quinn.
I actually think there's a better chance Nick Sirianni knows your name than Robert Quinn knows your name. Okay?
Oh yeah, that is definitely true.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to ask you about, Zach, is we had a long conversation in the post game pod about that fourth down, or I guess the third down. No, it was the fourth down. The fourth down fake sneak, hope to draw them off sides, coming out of the 2-minute warning, wasting that timeout. Sirianni explained that a little bit further during his Monday press conference.
Yeah. So in essence, I think you put it well when you talked about the cost benefit analysis, right? And from their perspective, it really seemed to boil down the field position. That being in the 10-yard line, he viewed it as having two cracks at the first down there. The first one being trying to draw them off sides. The second one being the actual play that they ran, which they got the first down on. And the cost there is the timeout. Now, you and I, and my opinion hasn't changed here. I would not have burned that timeout. Nick's point was that if you don't get it and you have the two timeouts and you get the ball back, you're getting the ball back at the 50-yard line at almost at best, right? Probably thereabouts. And you have to drive the length of the field to score a touchdown, or not the length of the field, but the 50 yards plus there to score a touchdown. You have no timeouts in that situation. And he was saying it's hard to get inside the 10. You're inside the 10. He wants to maximize that opportunity inside the 10. So I disagree. He didn't persuade me on it. But I think his explanation was sensible to an extent, right? Like it's a justifiable position. And I don't have what.
Oh, you're muted. I think
Sorry about that. My
okay. You're on the
wrong.
Have
what
mic.
the numbers are.
You're on the wrong mic, so you figure that out, and I'll
Here
talk here.
Here I go. I'm back now.
You're back.
Okay.
I think philosophically, I it is defensible, and I understand his point that the downside you're guarding against if you save that timeout is still an unlikely situation. I don't think it's that unlikely. If you get the ball at even your own 45 with a minute 10 left, I mean, not everybody's Patrick Mahomes, but we saw how easy the Chiefs were able to do that. This is still a very good offense. I don't think that's that crazy. I also think that but I understand that two shots at the upside of winning outweighs keeping a slightly better unlikely opportunity on the downside. I also just the whole picture there. The sequence of events did not make a lot of sense to me because you rushed to run a play on third down before the 2-minute warning. That second down or third down run to Boston Scott. I thought that didn't make a lot of sense in conjunction with then wasting the timeout. And then I thought that the actual sneak formation was not really believable. And that's why I think if they had spread things out and then you might have a better chance of drawing them off sides because they're probably more likely to think that you're actually going to run a play. So I didn't think that the choice of how to do it and then the preceding play made sense in the larger picture. But I mean, we're parsing something that ended up working out. And so, I don't know, we can be results based on this, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not certain that I consider, or I shouldn't even say I'm not certain. I don't consider the trying to draw them off sides a crack at the first down, right? I don't view that as a play at trying to get the first down. Now, whether it's Professor Selman or a different listener, I don't have the data or couldn't find access to the data for drawing someone off sides, the success rate in that situation. And certainly you don't see it from 2 yards out in a quarterback sneak situation. It's a small sample size. So they say these decisions are made during the week. You have to have conviction to it. Certainly, it was something that they had been planning. But I would still rather preserve that timeout and have a shot at Ernest
Our former sponsor
at the first down. If anything, I would let that. I would have let the clock get to the 2-minute warning and use the timeout after the third down, and so then you have like 2 plays where you have time. You're not hurrying up. You're not rushing. Like you could have that a legitimate third down and a legitimate fourth down. That would
right. You could run your third down play and then like run to get up to the line and fake the sneak then and maybe get him to drop. I don't know.
sure.
It's just
Yeah. So
I guess you take it one play at a time.
Yeah. But certainly it made more sense to me than it did on Sunday when he was holding it.
There was a
close
theory,
for-
there was a thought process behind it, which is what I mean. We
Exactly.
did. That is sort of what we wanted to hear. Which is
exactly.
anything else from looking back at that game that you'd like to discuss, Zach? Having rewatched it,
I'm curious your opinion as to whether they did not trust Jalen Hurts on that final drive, because we brought it, or you asked me on the post game pod why all running plays, and it I don't think it had anything to do with trust in Jalen Hurts. There were 2 things that jumped out to me. Number one, I don't totally buy for the reasons you actually said in real time and on the post game pod. I don't buy this idea that they were trying to run the clock because they were snapping it with more than 10 seconds on.
but I think they did want a running clock. I think they wanted to maximize the amount of plays they could have while still running the clock.
I thought more so that they trusted their running game in that situation, which, to be fair, they've trusted their running game in those types of drives throughout the season. That Arizona drive was a lot of running plays. That Dallas drive, a lot of running plays. So this is not specific to this game, number one. Number two, when I went back and watched it, I was impressed with the Colts' pass coverage. I didn't think the Eagles were getting wide open or even open in a big way after that opening drive. I thought that the Eagles were having better success running the ball than they were passing the ball. And then number three, I mean, Sirianni's explanation about trusting Hurts and the offensive line, that added up to me. Because that's and then when I looked at numbers for how they've played in the red zone this year, for instance, how they played in the low red zone this year. They are a run heavy team. They run the second most of any team in the low red zone this year. But the Bears are the only team that runs the ball more. So this all leads me to believe that this wasn't based on a lack of trust in Jalen Hurts, his passing. This was trusting Jalen Hurts running the ball, trusting the offensive line, and trusting that their running game could be better than the Colts' run defense.
Yeah, I think the spinning the narrative to say that this meant that they didn't trust Jalen Hurts is really unfair, and really silly, because just because you can't parse Jalen Hurts the thrower from Jalen Hurts the rusher. Like, you're trusting Jalen Hurts the player, and they're putting the ball in his hands to go win the game, right? Like, I think you have to take him for the whole picture that he is. And this is a much larger conversation about, along the lines of what we talked to Jason Reed about before the season started, like the way that black quarterbacks are often had forced into a box of they run, but can they stand in the pocket? I mean, they put the ball in his hands more than anybody else, right? And they fully trusted him to go win the game. And so, I think that's an unfair narrative.
I thought defensively, watching it, TJ Edwards really jumped out to me. Yeah,
I was just going to say, before we get to the defense, sorry,
okay,
to your point of what you were saying before about guys were not getting open. This was far and away the largest amount of man coverage the Eagles have seen in a game this season, which is interesting because you expect the Gus Bradley defense to be so heavy zone, but they played, I think, 63.9% of man coverage in this game, according to True Media. The second highest the Eagles have faced this season was the Steelers, and that was 56%. Nobody else over 50%. So that's interesting. And you wonder if that is sort of a response to Goddard being out. Also, maybe just like you have Stephon Gilmore, you think that he can do a good job against A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith was winning, and that's why there were so many of those anticipatory throws on against man coverage. But it was interesting. It was, I mean, it's true that they chose not to throw the ball because they thought that running was going to be more successful. But I don't know. It was an interesting matchup.
That's a good point, and perhaps that's also why the Eagles liked Hurts in the running game more than they would against his own defense.
Right, which is what we saw in Week 1 against Detroit when they were blitzing and playing man. All right, go to what you were going to say about the defense.
Yeah, TJ Edwards jumped out to me. I thought he had a really good game. He was around the ball quite a bit, and we spoke about him after the game. I thought the instincts were what you want. Gannon spoke about him yesterday, as far as like how smart he is on this defense. Maybe you'll see a piece in the future on TJ Edwards. I thought that the odd man fronts worked well. Linval, the upgrade, and this is no disrespect to Marlon Tuipulotu, but Linval Joseph was a major
respect to him, but I mean it's a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, Linval Joseph was a major difference, and I thought it affected the way the Colts were playing the game. You know, having Linval in there. Yeah,
I find it like it's more understandable to me why Sue did not sign anywhere until now, as opposed to Linval Joseph. It feels like so many teams could use him, and he said he was healthy. I mean, maybe he didn't really want to play until this late in the season. Maybe the Eagles were interested at some point. It's hard to know without knowing, but it does feel like he especially is like, why wasn't he on a roster?
So his comments last week were that he wanted a place where he knew he could play and have a role, right? Because I think a lot was made about joining a contender, but I think a big part was having a role. Now, most teams who play this type of defense, they're going into the season because it's such a unique player. A space-eating nose tackle, you have that. Unless that player goes down, you're probably not in the market for Linval Joseph. But it does make you wonder why they didn't make this move when Jordan Davis went down, especially because they had time then to do it. So perhaps they thought they could get by with what they had, and then they saw the evidence in the Houston and Washington game to convince them otherwise. But it does make me think even more. And again, not letting Gannon off the hook, okay? But it does make me think even more that the way they played against Washington and to an extent Houston was more personnel related than anything else.
They also did do a few more things in this game schematically. It felt like on defense they were tightening things up split wise. They did a few more games up front. I mean, I think there were adjustments that went a little bit beyond the players, but I think it was mostly player driven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
No. So the playing time distribution showed that.
I still, yeah. We said this after
Robert
the pod.
Quinn.
Oh yeah, that is a real story. Like, what is
they're
going
not
on?
getting. Yeah, they're not getting much from.
Now,
Robert
I guess
Quinn
in a
right now.
run-heavy game plan, you don't need Robert Quinn so much. He gets on the field on 3rd and long, and it's not like Graham and Sweat were playing a ton of snaps. So I'm still confused as to why, with Sue and Linval Joseph on the field so much, why Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave still played such a high percentage of snaps, and Milton Williams is the one whose snaps were cut in half. Like that doesn't really make sense to me. I know that you get caught up in the heat of the game. Like, this is a big stop. We need these guys on the field. This is a big drive. We need these guys on the field. But Milton Williams is playing fine. He's got to be up at 40%.
Yeah. So my explanation for that, and I don't know if this is correct or not, but they played a lower volume of snaps, and my guess is they're going more based on number than on percentage, right? Because a player's fatigue level is not based on percentage. That's a good point. It's based on overall volume.
And it's also probably based on, hey, Fletch, do you want to blow or not? And,
Yes.
like, he gets to decide.
Yes.
But the Quinn thing is weird. I mean, they did use a 4th-round pick to get the guy, and he hasn't really done anything.
Yeah, it makes me think that perhaps
He hasn't had a bye week. He needs a bye.
Yeah, you were the first one on that, by the way.
Well, you say that, but EJ was on it as well.
Okay.
Credit to EJ with the Inquirer, because he saw me interviewing Robert Quinn, and then afterwards he's like, that he doesn't have he could be the first player since whenever to play 18 games in the season. It's like, EJ, you.
No, but then Martin wrote about it.
I've been working on this story for years, and he just blurted it out.
But then Martin Frank wrote about it, and then it got picked up by Pro Football Talk.
It did?
Oh, yes. Yeah. It became like a...
After my interview?
Yeah, it was from Martin Frank's story.
What the hell, Martin? Well, it's not Martin's fault.
Yes. Pro Football Talk blew it up.
Well, I mean, we have a long-standing rivalry with Mike Florio. That blog post that he put about the story was probably way too long. I don't think anybody would have read it. Who's got the time? Who's got the time to read that?
I'm staying away.
I mean, ridiculous.
I'm staying as far away from that one as I can. But yeah, Quinn, I'm wondering if there's going to be like a Golden Tate situation here, where in the Dallas game on Christmas Eve, he has a big sack against Prescott. And then all of a sudden, I don't know who's calling that game. I think as of now, is it on? It's the Saturday games are weird that week. Do they count as Sunday games and they're on Saturday? But whoever's calling that game says a la Chris Collinsworth in January 2019, and the Robert Quinn trade is worth it now, right? Like it could just be situation.
If it happens in the playoffs, yeah.
Yes, exactly. So now I I feel bad not crediting who said this. But I found this to be an interesting observation from somebody on Twitter, that it said if you look at it like the Eagles signed Robert Quinn and then traded for either Linval Joseph or Ndamukong Suh, it would be like,
it's not how it works.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but you would say
I
like the net effect is the same, right? So
yeah, okay. A couple more things I want to get to, but let's take our little break now. We've got 2 breaks to get to, so let's do one. We'll come back. I want to talk about Zach's James Bradberry, Darius Slay story. I want to talk about a little Ndamukong Suh nugget that we learned last week, and then we'll get to previewing the Packers before we get to Swooper.
With Masterclass, you can learn from the world's best minds anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace. You can learn how to cook from Gordon Ramsay, improve your tennis skills from Serena Williams, or learn how to play basketball from Steph Curry. With over 180 classes from a range of world-class instructors, that thing you've always wanted to do is closer than you think. We all know from Bo's tennis story that he's good at tennis, but me, not so much. And getting to learn from the GOAT, Serena Williams, is so cool. I love the classes because you can start and stop them at any time. There's no pressure to finish it. It's really great, and it's really improved my tennis skills. I highly recommend you check it out. This holiday, give 1 annual membership and get 1 free. It's the perfect gift. We all are trying to save money this holiday season, so go to masterclass.com/firstdown and get 1 annual membership and get 1 free. That's masterclass.com/firstdown. Terms apply. After a holiday spent entirely in the kitchen, it's nice to know your meal plan is covered. And it's not just leftover turkey sandwiches. With Freshly, you get delicious, satisfying meals delivered fresh to your door. Just heat and eat. No cooking or cleanup required. And Freshly's Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals are some of the biggest and best of the year. $175 off your first 7 orders. I've told you guys many times I'm not the best chef, so Freshly makes it super easy for me, and the meals taste so good. You can pick from a rotating menu of over 35 tasty, balanced meals for every dietary preference. Find a flexible plan that fits your lifestyle, whether you're gluten-free like me, or you're calorie conscious, a plant-based pasta lover, or all about the meat and potatoes. Switch up meals, skip a week, or cancel anytime. It's that easy. Give thanks for a stress-free holiday season with Freshly's Black Friday sale and Cyber Monday exclusive. Order today and get $175 off your first 7 orders at freshly.com/birds for a limited time. That's freshly.com/birds for $175 off your first 7 orders. Freshly.com/birds for $175 off your first 7 orders.
you hear from people who want to try CBD, but they're not sure if it does anything, or they're not sure it would even work. Well, if you've ever wondered whether your CBD was working, that means it probably wasn't working. Next Evo Naturals developed Smart Sorb technology, clinically proven to help your body absorb CBD 4 times better than regular CBD oil, because oil just doesn't mix with your water-based body. I've heard about how it helps with muscle soreness after a good workout or when first waking up in the morning. It can encourage body recovery and healthy inflammatory response, supporting healthy joint function with fast action and better absorption. The Smart Sorb technology improves CBD's ability to be absorbed, getting into your system in as little as 10 minutes. Most CBD oil achieves between 2% and 10% absorption, which means more than 90% of what you think you're getting is actually wasted. Well, Next Evo Naturals are scientifically formulated to deliver more CBD in a way your body can actually use it. Clinically proven to help 4 times better absorption. To help your body have a healthy inflammatory response, try the new Revive CBD complex, which adds the benefit of curcumin with CBD. They use clinically proven Smart Sorb CBD and combine it with a patented curcumin blend to promote a healthy inflammatory response and help you feel restored. The curcumin C3 complex is 20 times more absorbed than regular curcumin, so you get the amount your body needs. Only Next Evo has the combination of high absorption ingredients. Don't settle for less. Get your supply of Next Evo Naturals Revive CBD Complex today, or shop their gummies, capsules, and mints, proven to absorb 4 times faster than standard CBD oil. Get up to 25% off when you subscribe and spend $40 or more at nextevo.com/recover with promo code BIRDS. That's nextevo.com/recover, promo code BIRDS.
All right, back on Birds with Friends, Bo, Zach, and Marissa. Zach, you had what we in the business call an A1 on James Bradberry, Darius Slay. Maybe not so different after all. What did you learn about this couple, especially Bradberry?
Yeah, so a little behind the story here. This is something that started off almost like a Bradberry piece, and the big thing that came up when asking around about Bradberry was how many people were talking to me about how funny he was, right? And I heard from multiple players like he's actually the funny guy in the room, and he has this really witty sense of humor. It doesn't come out often, and it doesn't come out publicly. But if you think about usage rate, right, like his jokes per minute or jokes per word, I should say, is really high.
And so you, being both a gumshoe detective and an avowed fan of comedy, your ears perked up and you sniffed it out. You said, "This is the story for me."
Well, interestingly, he says he gets his sense of humor from the television shows that he watched growing up, Seinfeld, and he watched Third Rock from the Sun, and I think he watched Big Bang Theory, maybe it was, and then Martin and Fresh Prince. And he has a lot of other interests. He's really he was in art contests as a kid, and he was always second place, but he showed me some of his art.
Pretty impressive.
And anyways, yeah. So it was interesting to juxtapose him with Darius Slay, who is legitimately funny. Like he'll make you laugh, number one, but he's well known for this. And as Bo did a great job writing, as you did a great job writing last year before the playoff game,
Bless you.
that Slay does not get enough credit for how serious he is. You know, he's viewed as kind of like the class clown, and he's admitted that's why he's never been a captain of a team, because he's kind of viewed this way. But within the building, he's held in very high regard. He's a leader for the first time this year. Players have called him one of the best leaders they've ever been around. Nick Sirianni has touted that as well, and he has all these thoughtful gestures behind the scenes that a lot of people don't know about. He's had people over for Thanksgiving. Speaking about Thanksgiving, if someone's caught, if someone needs help with their car, you ask Darius Slay. It's very Jason Peters-esque in that regard. As we've discussed on the pod before, his wife's banana pudding is well known in the locker room. I remember Nickel Roby-Coleman said it was the best part of playing in the secondary here. And when I brought it up,
Golden Tate's wife's recipe.
It is Golden Tate's wife's recipe. Yeah. And there's some players in the locker room who've never had banana pudding before this and are like blown away by this. And there's other players who've had banana pudding who can't believe, can't believe how good this banana pudding is. There's a lot there behind the scenes. There's a lot there behind the scenes with both players, and then juxtaposing them, and then they're playing at a really high level. I asked Richard Sherman before the Thursday night game about these guys, and Sherman's like, it's the best corner combination in the league, and Slay's the best corner in the league, and Bradbury's not far behind. And it wasn't in the story, but this topic was in the story. Sherman was in disbelief almost that the Giants let Bradbury go. And there was a lot there cap-wise that we got into. But you spoke after the Jaguars game. You gave the scene in the locker room when Darius Slay cut off an interview that Bradbury was having. Bradbury had like a phalanx of reporters around him. And Bradbury's
nice.
Yeah. And Bradbury said, and Slay said, you all are asking the wrong questions. The question you should be asking is how the Giants let this guy go. And I spoke to Bradbury about this, and Bradbury's like, he hears this all the time. He's wondered the same thing. He's happy he's in Philadelphia. Then another part of the story was just
don't give too much. We want the people to read the story.
Like what makes them effective? These are the top two in the NFL in pass breakups, passes defended since 2016, which is when Bradbury came into the league. Right there at this point, the number actually changed. The story was supposed to run a few weeks ago. It ran this week. I hope I'm not giving away too much by saying that. When the story was supposed to run, it was Bradbury was one, Slay was like one behind him, and then actually they're tied now. And Jalen Ramsey is next on the list, 10 passes defended behind. So they're very much like number one cornerbacks playing together. And you can read in the story, Denard Wilson explains why they're so good at pass breakups. And Marcus Epps explains like what about them is particularly unique for a cornerback. So I'm curious what it's going to be like long-term here. We've discussed it. Bradbury's a free agent. He signed a one-year deal purposefully to hit the market again. He's younger than Slay. Slay has 1 year left on his deal. But Slay's someone who I know the Eagles like and want to keep around. So I'm curious to see if they try keeping these guys, if they get priced out of it. But anyways, you can read all about that on The Athletic, and you can subscribe today for $1 a month for the next 12 months. And if that doesn't get you to subscribe, the absolute best power rankings you will find on any site you can find.
Unless you live in Minnesota.
And it's particularly timely this week because you can find out what each team is thankful for.
Well, Zach, you talk about the dynamic at corner, and I think this is a larger picture conversation about this Eagles team because it feels like they are ahead of schedule here with how good they are, but this is also like the last ride. It's only their second year, but it's also like the last ride with this group because the coaching staff is probably going to take some significant turnover this offseason. And the roster is set up in such a way that there's going to be a lot of turnover. The corners, potentially. We'll see what happens. I mean, they've got a ton of looming unrestricted free agents, which we've talked about. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the linebackers, they have to make decisions. The defensive line, they have to make decisions. And there's also the looming potential. I mean, we don't want to have the Jalen Hurts contract conversation right now, but that is a real variable. And so, like, even though this team is ascendant, it's also like this is their shot before things really change a lot.
Well said. Yeah, the amount of free agents they have, it's significant. Now, I think a few of those guys, if not a decent amount, will be back next year. The Eagles do have cap flexibility, but there are guys who are going to be gone. And I see something that Professor Selman posts each week, and it's really good. And it might be a story down the line from one of us, but the Eagles have I hope I'm pronouncing this, or I hope I'm explaining this correctly, the least amount of contributions from their rookie class of any team in the NFL.
Fewest stamps by a large margin.
Yeah, they are. This class was intentionally drafted for the future with some of these spots in mind. So what does that mean? That certainly means linebacker. That means defensive tackle. That means center at some point here, right? And so that's something to be mindful of. Now, what does that mean about cornerback? They haven't really invested in this position. Zach McPherson in the 4th round was the highest they've drafted a corner since Sidney Jones and Rasul Douglas in 2017, right? You know, they took Avante in the 4th round in 2018. But that's a position where
I think they would like to draft somebody early there. I think.
Yeah, exactly. And then safety is another spot where they have 2 guys on expiring deals, like we've talked about. They haven't drafted high in that spot either. So I'm more concerned about what they do at these positions where they don't have internal fortifications. I think that linebacker, offensive line, I mean, running back's not a position where you're gonna spend big anyways, but they have internal fortifications at some of these spots, not at others, and those are the spots where I'm curious to see if they try to extend for another year. And I know these comparisons keep being made, but it's not dissimilar to 2017, to the point that now this was before. Well, no, you were on the beat then. You had just come on, but Jeffrey Lurie had a press conference before that season, and a big question that he got, or I should say one of the questions he got, was about the amount of players that they have on 1-year deals. And at that time, and I can pull up the exact quote, but he discussed why he liked that and like what it did for optionality purposes. And that's the situation they're in this year, is that the flip side of 1-year deals is that you have a lot of flexibility. You know, it's like being on like a month-to-month lease as opposed to, you know, untying yourself down. You can get out of it. It's more expensive, but you can get out of it and move around. So,
speaking of like getting out of leases and relationships, Marissa, I want to bring you in here. What's the latest going on with the Jets, the other team that you cover? What's the news over there?
I'm shocked we made it 48 minutes.
Why?
I think
I've been driving. It took me like 5 hours to get down to DC, so I missed the news. What's going on?
I think when Saleh said earlier in the week that like they weren't committed to Zach Wilson, I think like a lot of the beat thought that was just like, you know, a little bit of coach speak to maybe fire up Zach Wilson. And I think they were all pretty shocked today when not only did they bench Zach Wilson, but now he's the number 3 quarterback.
They benched him?
Yeah.
The guy that took number 2 overall last year, he's their 3rd string quarterback?
Yes. So he will be inactive for the
Did
game
anybody
against the Bears.
Did anybody see that coming?
I don't know. It's
that
pretty
this
crazy.
guy was going to be really bad? That this guy was going to be a disaster? Did anyone know that was going to happen?
We're going to have to go back to like last year's pre-draft pods and get your take on that.
That's wild. That feels like almost unprecedented.
Crazy.
Wow.
No, I have a genuine question here, okay? And you follow the Jets much more closely than I do, Marissa. The last time we saw Mike White play,
wasn't good.
He threw 4 interceptions against the Bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how bad or how much has Zach Wilson lost that locker room? that they're
Mhm.
going to bench the number 2 overall pick for someone who threw 4 interceptions the last time he played.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it. Like, if the Jets were like, had 4 wins right now and didn't have a shot at the playoffs, or 3
Right.
wins, they probably would be sticking with Zach Wilson. But like the fact that like they have a realistic chance
also-
of making the playoffs, that Saleh is going for that versus the development of Zach Wilson, which is our Zach Rosenblatt said on the Can't Wait podcast today. Who knows if Zach Wilson is their quarterback next year, which is wild.
Can't be.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Jimmy G the other night, and he was looking pretty good. So, he's obviously got that solid connection. So who knows what's going to happen there. But yeah, pretty crazy. Number 2 overall pick last year. And he's now the number 3 quarterback.
Wow.
So
I'm doing something I don't like to do, which is speculating without any information. This is kind of based on what I know of the NFL. I need to imagine this is more than performance related, right? Because you're not, if you're not turning to Mike White just because you think Mike White is like a better quarterback. There has to be things happening behind the scenes that's eroding your confidence in the person as much as the player.
yeah, we talked about that too. Like, was his comments after the game versus the Patriots like the final straw that okay, he has lost everybody. And he addressed the team apparently today. He did say, the right things today to the media. I don't, probably a little too late, but yeah, I mean, I think his comments that were pretty viral, that he took no blame for only scoring 3 points, were not taken well. And teammates, like tweets and, there's all that subtweeting on Twitter, oh, I didn't mean to like that kind of thing. But I think the locker room, it really, especially to the defense that only allowed 3 points, it was not a good feeling for them.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to assume things, my assumption is that it's not like those comments. It's that those comments reinforced a perception that this guy does not take any accountability.
Exactly. Yeah.
In any way, right? It's also, I mean, they've got this super easy schedule of defenses coming up.
Yeah,
So
which is
it's
crazy.
I thought that, I did think they were going to give him one more shot.
That's why we thought when Saleh made that comment earlier that they weren't committing to him 2 days ago or a day ago, I don't even remember at this point, that it was kind of just like a public lighting a fire under Zach Wilson. But I guess, yeah. So, I mean, Mike White should have a good game against the Bears. I mean, it's not the Bills of last year that he threw 4 interceptions. So we'll see. But yeah, and if he doesn't, then I guess it's Joe Flacco. So I don't know.
Can you guys think of anybody who saw this coming?
Well, actually, if you go back and you look at what we were saying about the quarterbacks coming out of the draft, I think, I was all about Justin Fields going into that draft. You were real into the Trey Lance.
I was not real into Trey Lance. I was real out on Zach Wilson.
Okay, yeah. But I was gonna say the is Fields starting for Chicago? I know his left shoulder's messed up.
I think he practiced today.
Okay.
So I think, I would assume that that's trending towards it, but
so it's like staring you in the face, this quarterback who you didn't take. And it's also, and it's not just Joe Douglas and the Jets here. I mean, it seemed to be the consensus by draft time that Wilson was the number 2 guy after Lawrence. But going into the year, Justin Fields was considered like the no doubt number 2 guy there after Lawrence. And what Fields is doing this year, and as that Jet staff is watching film of it, it's got to be just hitting you in the face. And I'm not gonna dismiss Wilson after a year and a half, but man, to be benched for Mike White,
to be inactive is not even the backup guy.
This is the Nelson Aguilar thing. They want him to take a week off, take a beat. I mean, if he's going to be a good quarterback, getting benched is not going to prevent that. But yeah, I mean, it's about as bad a start as anybody's had. All right. Yeah. Why don't we take our last break? We'll come back. We'll talk a little bit about the Packers matchup, and then we'll get into Swooper, have our crystal ball Eagles, and we'll explain what Ime Udoka has to do with the Philadelphia Eagles season.
Don't be a Monday morning quarterback. Get Shopify and score business success, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Forget the off-season work. Shopify makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere. Whether you're selling warm-ups or wall hangers, it's time to start selling with Shopify and join the platform simplifying commerce for millions of businesses worldwide. With Shopify, you'll customize your online store to your brand, discover new customers, and build the relationships that create die-hard fans. Shopify fields all the sales channels to grow a winning business, from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform, even across social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And thanks to 24/7 support and free on-demand business courses, Shopify is on your team every step of the way. It's how every minute new sellers around the world score their first sale with Shopify, and you can too. Shopify is the secret to becoming a business champion by making it simple for anyone to sell their products anywhere, taking the guesswork out of selling. When you're ready to take your winning idea to the world, team up with Shopify, the commerce platform powering millions of businesses down the street and around the globe. Try out Shopify for free today and start selling anywhere. This is possibility powered by Shopify. Sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/birds, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/birds to start selling online today. Shopify.com/birds. Do you like to unwind with our podcast and a nice glass of wine? First Leaf makes it simple to discover new wines you'll love. They learn your tastes, then deliver quality wines right to your door. Take it from me. We had a shipment come. My wife was so impressed that all of a sudden I had taken this interest in wine, and she so enjoyed this collection of wine. She brought it to a BYO. She served it when friends came over for dinner. Forget driving to the wine shop. Forget shopping by the label, and forget overspending on bottles you don't like. With First Leaf, you rate each wine you receive with a simple thumbs up or a thumbs down. Then their experts will send you personalized selections with new and exciting bottles in every box. In fact, First Leaf can recommend wines you'll love with 96% accuracy. As your tastes evolve, so will the wines you receive. And if you're not completely satisfied with a bottle, First Leaf will credit you for another. That's wine made simple. Sign up today and you'll get your first 6 bottles for $39.95 plus free shipping. Go to tryfirstleaf.com/BWF. That's tryfirstleaf.com/BWF to get your first 6 bottles for $39.95 plus free shipping. Tryfirstleaf.com/BWF.
All right, back on Birds with Friends. Bo, Zach, and Marissa. Zach, Dominican Sue talking today about how much he dislikes the Packers. This is a team he really likes to play against. Obviously, he was in the division for a little bit with the Lions. He said he was talking about Aaron Rodgers. That's a quarterback who he likes going after. He was talking about how difficult it is to, go up against him the way that he rushes to the line and does all these other things. It's good insight. It's been fun talking to Dominican Sue, but it was not as fun to me as his introductory availability when he was talking about Philadelphia. He's always wanted to play for Philadelphia, and one of the reasons is that he's got a family friend who used to coach for the Sixers who spoke really highly about Philadelphia, and so hardcore journo like I am, I said, "Who's the guy you're talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I'll let you figure that out. You can just look at recent history." And you knew right away because, of course, when he's signed here, you immediately read everything that had ever been written about him in your encyclopedic brain. But we figured it out, and it's very funny. It is Ime Udoka, who the families, I guess, were close when they both grew up in the Pacific Northwest in Portland. But what a savvy media personality Sue is to not get caught on camera mentioning the name Ime Udoka. Very funny. I was also, I kept making jokes in the media house, like, I'm so happy to be with the Bills finally. A good friend of mine used to play running back for the team, a couple decades ago. Really spoke highly of the fans. Just, kept going along those lines.
I'm not going there. But this was a story last spring when I believe Sue was courtside at the Celtics game, and there was a bunch of stories about this friendship together in Portland. They're both from Portland. Sue dropped a lot of other subtle Portland references in that press conference that was interesting to observe. But that is a connection for sure.
It was funny. It was a very funny aftermath of an interview, I thought. All right, let's get to this Packers team. This is interesting, Zach, because the things that the Packers are ostensibly good at, the Eagles are better at. And the things that the Eagles are bad at, the Packers are even worse at. If you go down their DVOAs, they're worse in every single category. So Eagles fourth overall, Packers 14th overall, which better than you might expect given their record. But there are some underlying things working their way there, although they have been beset by injuries of late. Eagles third offensively, Packers ninth offensively, 16th passing, but fifth rushing. You think that's pretty good for the Packers? They're fifth in rushing DVOA. Well, the Eagles are second, and they're sixth in passing. On defense, Packers have not been good. Not as good as their talent would indicate. Eagles right now fourth, Packers 20th. Eagles third against the pass, Packers 12th against the pass. But that Eagles rush defense, that's where they've been struggling. They're 26th in rush DVOA, even after a solid performance against Jonathan Taylor. Well, the Packers are 29th against in rush defense DVOA. But surely they'll be better at special teams. Eagles 24th in special teams. Well, Packers notoriously bad on special teams, even with Rich Bisaccia. They're 29th. And so you look at the matchups, not a single area in which the Packers are better right now, but they do have Aaron Rodgers.
Yes.
Christian Watson has been ascending a little bit. He's got some speed. He's a big, strong, fast man, kind of like a poor man's Andre Yoshivas, I might say. And the defense has some players too, but like other than the Rodgers mystique, there should not be any real reason to be super concerned about this matchup.
Yeah, I thought you did a really good job outlining it there. I'll be transparent about this. I picked the Packers to make the Super Bowl before the season, and if John Gonzalez is listening right now, he could tell you how I am in fantasy basketball. Gonzo always jokes that like even late in the it would be 60% through the season, and my team's down in the standings. But I'm like, John, I feel it coming. Like my team's gonna turn it around. I like my pieces. They've been slow so far, but I'm not giving up. I'm not trading it away for draft picks. Like I really believe this could happen, right? And I do these weekly picks for the Athletic now, and it seems I've been burned by the Packers so many times because I'm always like, it's Aaron Rodgers. He's going to do it. And I think the Tennessee game was probably the last straw for me because they have that big win against Dallas, right? A huge emotional victory. You're at home on a short week against the Titans. And
so first Leaf wine, by the way.
There you go. Emily's a big fan, as I talked about in the ad. So the Titans just out-toughed them, outplayed them, out-coached them.
Titans out-tough anybody.
And that's what jumped out to me was that was probably the last straw for me. So I like the Eagles in this matchup, but Aaron Rodgers is still Aaron Rodgers. And even if the numbers don't suggest it, he can still make throws. He can still think at a level that, he can still manipulate the game. And from a macro, bigger picture perspective, if the criticism or the lingering question about Jonathan Gannon's defense is that, well, they haven't seen this type of quarterback who can pick them apart, who's willing to take what you give them, who can be patient, yada, yada, yada. And if you don't think Kirk Cousins fit that category, and if you don't think Kyler Murray fit that category, the Eagles really haven't seen quarterbacks like that this year. Maybe Trevor Lawrence, but Aaron Rodgers, even with the way he's playing, the way he can control a game, the way he can think a game, he would fit in that category. So that's why I think this is a big test for Jonathan Gannon's defense, because Rodgers will take what's there. And I don't like their receivers. I don't know what they were thinking. And this is actually, I'm rambling here, but it's a question I'm going to propose to you in the
I do.
in the beat back and forth that you'll find on Saturday in our cheat sheet. But look, the Packers had draft inventory. If the Packers had traded for AJ Brown and the Eagles had used their first round pick on a wide receiver, okay, let's say Treylon Burks, right, who actually had a big game against Green Bay last week. What's the record of these two teams? And the reason I ask that is because
It's interesting.
It just seems like the Packers either had this hubris about their drafting or had no plan at wide receiver. Watson's coming on, like you said, but it's just mismatched parts there. It's not working.
The other possibility is that from the top on down, they decided we got to get rid of this Aaron Rodgers guy. He is toxic. We need him out of our lives. I cannot deal with being with him every day. We can't just cut him, but let's create a roster so bad that he's going to leave or retire.
Oh, I disagree, because I think they could have traded him to Denver, right? Like that. I mean, I don't want to say this definitively, but it's certainly and again, I don't cover the Broncos. I read
Maybe
our
Jordan
coverage,
Love will be the Jets quarterback.
but it certainly seemed that like Hackett was hired in trying to lure Rodgers there, and the conditions were in place. Adams leaves, but man, it's not been what I anticipated.
That's true. That's a fair point. Yeah, they did sign him to a new contract. So okay. All right, let's get to Swooper.
Wait, and the other thing I'll add about Green Bay is that Rashawn Gary was really coming on earlier this year.
Is it Rashawn Gary or Gary Rashawn?
Rashawn Gary.
Okay.
That was a big injury. It's got to kill Packers fans when you see what Zadarius Smith is doing in Minnesota right now. But their offensive line is not what I expected it to be. Their pass rush is not what it could have been. They still have good players on defense. Kenny Clark, and you go on down the list. Alexander's one of the best corners in the NFL. Rasul Douglas is making plays on a consistent basis for them. But that roster is, and that coaching staff is not as I expected them to be going into the year.
All right. Swooper time. Zach, start us off.
5.
What?
Wait.
Dennis just ruined Zach's weekend.
Swooper.
Oh! Great job, Marissa.
I felt like we needed a jingle for so long, so
Marissa, fantastic. You did that all by
we
yourself?
finally have a Swooper jingle. Yeah. I'm
was
not as
awesome.
super good with the animations, but it was the best I could come up with. So
Marissa, you've outdone yourself.
Which is hard to do.
That was
a
fantastic.
long time coming. We've needed that, so I'm happy we finally have it.
Now we just need a new
Wow.
intro,
Yes.
which we got to
Yeah.
follow up on.
Yeah.
That's an us problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't rap, so that's where I draw the line.
All right. Let's get to Swooper. Zach on the board got his second point of the season. Marissa's got 1. I've got 7. No big deal to me. This is a bit of an inflated market week. We've got Marissa has nothing left over. She has got 24, but I have 36 turkeys to start with this week. Zach has 38. So maybe some high bids coming up. I think it might be my turn to start. So I will do that. And I will say Rasul Douglas touches the ball on a turnover for the Packers defense. So this could be a straight interception. This could be a tip interception. It could be he recovers a fumble. He forces a fumble. He touches a fumble on someone recovered by someone else. Rasul Douglas touches the ball on a turnover by the Eagles defense. I'll bid 2.
3.
I'm out on this one. Not feeling it.
Three going once. 3 going twice. 4.
Zach?
You can have it at 4.
4 going once. 4 going twice. Sold
Okay.
to Bo Wolf. Okay. Marissa.
Okay. Christian Watson scores multiple touchdowns.
1.
2. 2 going once. 2 going twice. Sold. Wow.
You got that, Marissa, or Zach did?
Me.
You got it for 2? Okay.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Shout out to the listener who told us that his kids have been learning how to count.
Yes, that was really
listening
cool.
to
I like
Swooper.
that. Yeah. So we need to drive up the bidding so they can, learn how to count really high. And you guys have so many turkeys, so might as well spend them.
That's true. That was who was that? Was that Seals? I'm trying to find it.
You want me to go while you look
Yeah,
it
why
up?
don't you go? Why don't you go ahead, Zach?
Okay. Miles Sanders
Yes, good
rushes.
Seals.
Miles Sanders rushes for 100 yards.
1.
I should say at least 100 yards.
Oh, I was going to
Yeah.
call the technicality. I was.
Yeah, not 100 yards on the dot.
Okay.
That
What
would
rushes
be,
for at least 100 yards?
at least 100 yards. Yes. And to give you perspective on here, he has topped 100 yards once this season. That was week 4 against Jacksonville.
You know what? For all the talk about the Eagles not trusting Jalen Hurts on the game-winning drive, how did you feel about the Eagles not trusting Miles Sanders?
I was curious where Boston Scott came. Like Boston Scott has not been used this year much at all, and all of a sudden
3 straight runs or something like
yes,
that.
he's your fourth quarter running back and your starting kick returner, right? So interesting how that worked out. Yeah, I was surprised, or that was notable to me, for sure.
Okay. Did anybody bid
said
on
1.
this? Okay.
2.
1.
As we said before, Packers run defense 29th in DVOA.
Can he do? He had 47 last week, because I knew that because I needed Jonathan Taylor to double it.
That's right.
It's 40 something. I'm out on this one.
You've got it for 3 right now, Zach?
2.
2? Ooh, 2 going once. 3.
4.
Oh.
4 going once. 4 going twice. Sold to Mr. Berman. Miles Sanders, exactly 100 rushes. All right.
All right.
It is.
Oof. Okay, lots of colors on here. Okay, the item. The Eagles score more points than the total number of turkeys bid on this item by all 3 players.
Oh,
This
combined.
is a
So the
sealed.
cumulative total.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
The Eagles score more points than the total number of turkeys bid on this item by all 3 players. Yeah. Sealed bid first price auction. All 3 players privately write down their bids and then reveal them at the same time. The highest bidder wins the item and pays their own bid. The other 2 players do not pay anything. Note, it literally says note. Even though the losers don't pay anything, their bids still matter because the item itself is based on the total number of turkeys bid by all 3 players. So the more you bid as a loser, the less valuable the item is for the winner. If there is a tie for the highest bid, each of the players involved in the tie are rewarded an equal fraction of the item, and each pays that fraction of their bid. rounding up to the next whole turkey if needed. For example, if there's a two-way tie at 11 turkeys, the two players who bid 11 would each pay 6 turkeys and then would each get a half point if the item hits. If there's a three-way tie, all 3 bidders get a third of the item and pay a third of their bid, rounding up to the nearest whole turkey. Again, the item. The Eagles score more
This is a fun one. I
points
like this one.
than the total number of turkeys bid on this item by all 3 players.
Okay.
I like this one.
I got to pull up a number. Okay.
All right. Ready?
Mhm.
3, 2, 1.
8.
Ooh,
5.
Zach for 5, 13 for me.
Wow.
So I get it for 13, and it's going to be 26 points.
Wow.
Eagles score more than 26 points. I feel good about that. Should have gone 12, but all right. So I'm down to 19 turkeys, but Eagles.
I like that you had to spend a lot of turkeys there. I like that. Dana's.
Yeah, that was a good one, Professor Selman. Well done.
Zach knew
like
that
that
bidding
one.
5, it was.
I feel
Nice.
good about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that
that's
sounds good.
good. 26. I was considering bidding a lot and making it hard, but then I didn't
Mm.
know if I would be screwing myself over.
Yeah.
So
I'm surprised. Well, I don't want to get into it, but
You're surprised I didn't bid more turkeys?
yeah. Why did you only bid 5?
that's his number.
Because yeah, well, hey, A was on brand, but B, in the off chance you guys went low, I win it at a low number, and if you guys go
Why would we
high,
go low?
what's
Yeah,
well, no,
but-
and I wasn't going to bid 13 turkeys on this. I wasn't going to go that high, so I only wanted this if this was a low number. I'm not convinced the Eagles score more than 26 points in this game.
Yeah, but
Right,
why would you only go? How many points do you think the Eagles are going to score in this game?
I think they're going to score more than 26. It's at
How-
home.
but
Sunday
you-
night football, black uniforms.
You think they're going to score 24 points in this game, Zach?
I think it's more plausible that they score 24 than 34.
Okay, well, so then why wouldn't you bid 9? Because then if you're 9, you guarantee that the next 2 highest could be like 8, and then you'd be at 25 points.
Because I didn't want to bid 9 turkeys on this. Like that's I had a price I was willing to pay.
So the
for
most
this
the
item.
most you were willing to pay was that the Eagles would only score 14 points. You would pay 5 turkeys for the Eagles to score 14.
I would have been
points.
comfortable that the Eagles I'd be comfortable I would win this bid. I would
If you
win
bid
this
7
item.
at least, then you're betting on the Eagles scoring more than 19 points at worst.
I don't know that to be the case. The last time they played on primetime, how many points did they score?
Okay.
Right?
All right.
Good one by Deniz. Okay. Bo, what's
all right,
up?
my turn. Bo Quinn has a quarterback hit.
1,
2,
3, 3 going once.
4,
Ooh.
4 going once.
I'm
4
out.
going twice.
Okay.
Sold.
I like this.
You'll spend 4 for this. Okay.
yes. I'm trying to get a range of options here.
Okay. Marissa?
Okay, so this one actually was an idea from Michael, but this was also written in the chat, so it's perfect because I obviously like to take him from the chat more than Michael. But the broadcast shows Jordan Mailata and the Eagles offensive line singing Christmas songs. I'm gonna go 1,
2.
3,
You can have it at 3. Unless Bo wants it.
3 going once,
4,
5,
6,
7,
7 going once. 7 going twice. You got it.
All right. I mean, those clips have been
That's a good
everywhere
one.
today.
That's
They
definitely
better
going to be on
show
there.
it.
But yeah, that's a good one.
Right. So I'm up. Right.
You're up.
So I like this one here. I think it's a creative one, and
Tuning his own horn.
Hassan Reddick finishes the game as the Eagles' leader in sacks on the season. And so some context here. Hassan Reddick is going into this game with 7.5 sacks. Okay. He is ahead of Javon Hargrave at 7 sacks. Next on the list is Brandon Graham at 4 and Josh Sweat at 3.5. Okay. So basically you are betting on either Hassan Reddick to have the most sacks in this game or Javon Hargrave not to have more than, a half a sack more. Yeah. So, and I should qualify this, has to have sole possession of the top of the list. Okay. So
I like this. So you're rooting for something and rooting against something else.
yes,
you're betting, but you're betting on
ways
status quo.
There's different ways this could happen. It could be a big game from Reddick. It could be no sacks at all. It could be sacks from Graham and Sweat, but not Hargrave.
Look at all you're betting on is there to not be a Javon Hargrave sack, basically.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all you're betting on.
And if there is,
well, no, there could be a Hargrave sack, or a Reddick sack too.
Well, yeah, but that's true.
Yeah,
this seems overwhelmingly likely to happen.
I like
the framing.
1.
Okay. 2.
6.
Oof. 7.
8.
9.
10.
11.
12.
I'm out.
13.
13 going once. 13 going twice. Sold to Zach for 13. All right. Zach, that was a lot of turkeys. You must be really confident in this one.
It's a very likely thing to happen. He's betting on status quo. Like,
I'm not betting on status quo.
I hope the game opens and Hargrave.
You're betting on status quo and other outs. You're like, there's really only one path for you to not get this.
You could have bid on it, Bo. It was an open auction.
I could have.
Who's Hargrave lining up against on the Packers?
John Runyon, right?
Okay.
All right, we're at Dainese.
Yes. Okay. More red writing. Okay. Item 8. The end zones are painted black rather than the normal midnight green. This is called a hybrid auction. The player who won the last item, item 7, writes down their bid for this item and does not reveal the bid itself, but does say whether their bid is odd or even. Next, only the other 2 players bid publicly, as in a usual auction, without knowing the first player's bid, and they are only allowed to bid odd numbers if the first player's bid is even, and only even numbers if the first player's bid is odd. Once the 2 players finish bidding, the first player reveals their original bid to compare to the higher of the other 2 players' bids. The higher bidder wins the item and pays their own bid. The losers do not pay anything.
Okay.
So, Zach, you need to write down your bid. Again, the item is the end zones are painted black rather than normal midnight green.
Okay, give me 1 second here. And just to clarify, I have 23 turkeys remaining.
No,
correct?
you have 17 turkeys remaining.
Okay.
Marissa has 15. I have 19.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that clarification. Okay.
I appreciate you trying to cheat.
Okay.
Okay, odd or even, Zach?
This is odd.
Okay. 1.
No, you have
1.
to bid even.
Oh, right.
His is odd, so we have to be even.
2.
4.
6.
8.
I think this is going to happen. 10.
12.
And remember, I had 17 turkeys. I have 17 turkeys. Okay.
You got it, Bo.
Okay.
Are you serious?
Zach, what'd you bid?
What'd you bid, Zach?
Bid 11.
Oh,
Oh.
Great job,
right.
Bo. That was well done on your end. That's a gimme right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be, I would imagine. All right, so
Yes.
I'm down to 7.
what
Marissa
if like
has
it's not
15,
painted
Zach has
black
17.
and Eagles is written in like some black? Like the whole end zone has to be black.
No, Eagles is in there. It's just the
No, I
background
know.
color is black.
No. Yeah, but like the background color has to be black.
Yes.
Like, what if it's like the Eagles is written in some black font, crazy font?
Yeah, that wouldn't count. That wouldn't count.
Okay.
So there's only one variable here that could make it not be black. I'm fairly confident it's going to be black. But the one variable here is that Temple plays on Saturday, right? So
okay.
that could affect what they're able to do with the field.
But it's a night game, so they have a little extra time.
They do. Yes, that is correct. But just something to keep in mind.
Okay. I like that.
All right. So Bo has how many turkeys remaining?
I have 7 left. Marissa has 15. Zach has 17.
Okay.
All right. A kickoff return by either team goes past the 50-yard line.
1, 2.
Yeah, you can have it at 2.
2 going once. 2 going twice.
It can't be a punt. It's a kickoff.
Got to be
Kickoff,
kickoff. Yes.
Yep.
All right. Go 2.
Okay.
My turn.
Your turn. 3 left.
Okay. An MVP chant breaks out during the game.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Now, if this is not heard on the broadcast, you guys have to be fair and let us know within the stadium. But
Yeah, it's got to be loud enough for us to hear it in the press box.
yes. And I think it will be.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah. The chat was on fire today.
3.
I'll go 4.
Well, there are going to be some sickos in the crowd who could try to make this happen.
5.
I'm hoping Deniz in his section will be, if I win it, not if Zach wins it. 6.
6 going once.
7.
8.
It's yours.
8 going
3.
once. 8 going
Okay.
twice. All right. Marissa gets it. Zach?
So I don't like having. I don't like that we have 2 that are TV dependent, but I also don't want to. I think it'd be, it would be disingenuous for me or unfair for me to change this subsequently, right? Especially when I have a surplus. So I will go with what I originally went with. But this means we have 2 that are tied to TV.
That's okay.
Okay.
And-
We've had that before.
Footage is shown from the Eagles-Packers game in 2020. A Jalen Hurts footage is shown from the Eagles-Packers game in 2020, and it could be either him playing the game or it could be him with Aaron Rodgers after the game. But it's not enough for the broadcast to talk about it. They actually have to show footage from that game. And to give context to our listeners, I imagine you all know this, but that's when Jalen Hurts entered the game for Carson Wentz, became the starter thereafter. Him and Aaron Rodgers shared a moment after the game. Jalen Hurts told Aaron Rodgers that day that he tried his best to look like him as the scout team quarterback. Aaron Rodgers asked him if he got the cadence down. Hurts said that he's still working on it. He's not at Rodgers' level. I asked Jalen about that today. He said he's better, but he's still not there yet. He said Rodgers has a lot more years on him. But Rodgers also said that day that he's got a lot of respect for Jalen.
That's what you were
he watched
smiling
him in
about.
college. I wasn't smiling about that. But anyways, so it can't be Collinsworth saying, so Jalen Hurts went in on that game, and it can't be just a graphic on the screen. They have to show footage from that game.
Okay.
How many turkeys do I have left? 5?
5. I have 7. Zach has 17.
Okay.
2.
7.
Wow.
Okay. Guy's got
Sold.
an in with Fred Godelli. He knows what's going to happen.
Frickadelli's at Amazon now, I think so. Did I go too high?
You got it.
No.
Okay. I clearly
mean-
did. If Bo's reaction was that, so
Okay.
All right.
Last one.
Close us out.
Item 12. The Eagles win the game. This is a regular auction, but ... Unlimited borrowing from next week's turkeys is allowed for all bidders. If the item does not hit, the winner's turkeys will all be pardoned like a turkey back guarantee and refunded in full.
If it doesn't hit,
If the item
Oh.
does not hit, the winner's
I like that.
turkeys will all be pardoned like a turkey back guarantee and refunded in full.
oh, I like that. All right. So
7.
how badly do you want the win?
7.
10. I'll take 5 from next week.
This is fun. 12.
$13.
So if they lose, I get all these back.
Correct.
Okay.
It's just how much do you want to spend?
And then
yeah.
really, if
And
they
borrow
win-
from next week. And
Yeah.
I
I'll
don't
say
like-
15.
Shoot. This puts me at a strategic disadvantage for next week. 16. I'm at that point in the season where I got to stack wins.
So how many would Zach have to borrow from
Yeah, I
next
think
week?
Zach's got 2 that are going to hit. I think I've got 2 that are going to hit. Marissa's got, I think, 2 that are going to hit too. So it could come. This might be what it comes down to. I'll go 17. I'll borrow 10 from next week.
18.
19.
Come on, Zach. Do it.
20.
Yes.
20. Borrowing 10 turkeys. You're almost hoping for a loss so that you can get the turkeys back.
No, but maybe Zach and I are playing games and Zach will win this week and then I'll win next week. We need to take the wins from you.
I'll go 21.
I wish I didn't bid so high on the previous one, right?
Come on, Zach. Do it. 22. You get them back if they lose.
Marissa, peer pressure does not. Peer pressure actually adversely affects me. Like I'm less inclined to go with peer pressure because then I think I'm not thinking independently anymore.
Okay,
But
don't do it.
I will go with 22.
22 going once. 22 going twice. Sold.
Yes. Good one, Zach.
All right, so Zach, you're down 12 turkeys next week unless the Eagles lose.
Okay.
That's good.
Yeah.
That was a fun one.
Yeah.
Big.
I like
I feel like Dennis was on fire this
Yeah.
week. This was
Yeah.
a good slate of his swoopers.
Definitely.
I mean, at this point, it's like it's like the people who were going camping, right? And the bear comes, and the person stops and puts on his shoes, and the guy says, "What are you doing? You can't outrun the bear." And he says, "I don't need to outrun the bear. I just need to outrun you." Right? Like I only need, I can't have Bo win. I just need to outrun Bo in this case. So,
you need to outrun
Oh.
me, really.
well,
Yeah, I don't really know that applies, but I'll take it.
yeah, like if I just need to stay alive here, and I believe that if you win, it'll put me at a detriment to
It will be interesting if it is a tie this week and the point carries over. And
Oh, if the Eagles win, but I don't win swooper.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow,
And
that
it's a
would
tie.
be.
Yes.
I mean,
Very possible.
yeah, that's like
It's like the story of it's like a different story of the woods where the bear and the rabbit are both doing their business number 2 next to each other in the woods, and the bear says to the rabbit, "Hey, do you ever have a problem with it, sticking to your fur?" And the rabbit says, "No, never." And so the bear picks up the rabbit and wipes himself with the rabbit.
I never heard that one.
That's also stolen, but it's
Okay.
told more colorfully. All right, so Zach, you've got to recap. Miles Sanders has over 100 yards rushing, or at least 100 yards rushing. Robert Quinn has a quarterback hit. Hassan Reddick ends the game as the Eagles sack leader. That should definitely hit. The Packers footage, that's likely, and the Eagles win. And the Eagles win the game. Marissa has Christian Watkins has at least 2 touchdowns. There's a clip on the broadcast of the offensive linemen singing their Christmas songs. A kickoff return goes past the 50, and there are MVP chants in the building. I have Rasul Douglas touches the ball on an interception, or on a turnover rather. The Eagles score more than 26, or at least 26. It was 13, 8, and 5, right? So, okay, so it's got to be at least 26 points.
No,
right?
It said the Eagles score more points.
Oh yeah, so
than
it's got to
the
be
total
20.
number
They
of turkeys bid on this item.
Points.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the end zones are black. So that's what I've got. All right. Good work, everybody, especially Dennis. Yeah. Zach, let's take a little peek and peer into that crystal bald eagle.
1 second here as my mic keeps going in and out. If you can start today, that'd be great.
Sure. Eagles are 7.5 point favorites in this game. Is that the updated line? Give me a thumbs up if you want, Zach. Mm-hmm. I think we have not done a good job of predicting the spreads on the Eagles. I think that the Packers are going to cover here, but maybe it'll be a backdoor cover. I think the Eagles will win this game. I think they're going to play much better offensively than they have the past couple weeks. Eliminate some of those mistakes. I don't think we talked about Landon Dickerson has had like an uncharacteristic down several weeks in a row. I don't know what's going on there, but I'd like to see them clean those things up on offense. I think maybe the turnovers bounce back a little bit. And I know Aaron Rodgers is good-ish still, but I don't think he scares me too much. More importantly, I don't think that the Packers defense has anything that's really gonna stop the Eagles. I think Jalen Hurts will have a big night, and maybe AJ Brown has a big night here again on prime time, because Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown are so tight. They're best friends. They sit right where Zach and whatever his name is do in the NovaCare Complex team meeting room. So give me Eagles winning this game 29-23.
So you have this going over. The over-under is 46.5, which to the previous conversation does not speak to a high-scoring game here. The Eagles 7-point favorites. I also think that the Eagles win but don't cover. The Eagles haven't been covering as well recently. And so I think that...
Is that a Darius Slay comment?
It's not, but they haven't been covering as well recently either, right? So I look at this and say the Eagles are the better team. Rodgers can pull some plays out of his, you know what? I mean, he's won the last 2 MVPs for a reason. They've started to get some offensive momentum. Don't like that way the defense is playing. I think this is a game when the Eagles offense needs to move the ball better. I'm not convinced that they're going to have the same type of offensive sustained offense that we saw earlier. I think Goddard's absence really really hurts the offensive consistency here. I can see a big play or two in there. The Eagles' explosive play percentage has gone down recently, but I think this is one they're going to have to eke out, to use the phrase that was in Bo's headline and was on the headline of the podcast the other day as well. I think
a shot at me for reusing eek at like 2 a.m.
It's not a shot at all. It's actually a compliment to show that your story and the podcast resonated with me that much. The Eagles win this game 24-21. Jake Elliott's kicking proves to be critical here. I don't know if it comes down to a game-winning field goal, but I think his field goals will be especially important. And it narrowly, it's right around that over-under. So I have 45. It's 46.5 is the number. And the Eagles advance to 10-1, which will make Nick Sirianni. It'll give him double-digit wins, and it means every coach that Jeffrey Lurie has hired has won double-digit games within 2 seasons.
There you go. All right, Marissa, any final words from you? Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to all the sickos. I hope they all have a great day with lots of good food and fun time with their family. You guys too.
I said it on this podcast last year, but I'm really grateful for the two of you in particular. I included Sheil in that group too. I am thankful for Sheil, but for the sake of this podcast, the two of you and for all of our listeners, I genuinely look forward to these podcasts for the community that has come out of Birds with Friends that I didn't anticipate when I took this job. And I hope everyone enjoys Thanksgiving with those you get to spend it with, and appreciate all that comes with this holiday.
Well said.
Yeah.
You got a way with words, Zach. You're in the right profession.
Thank you.
All right. So, happy Thanksgiving to all of you. Potentially you're listening to this after Thanksgiving. So, hope you had a good Thanksgiving. Hope you took some Tums or some Pepto-Bismol or whatever you need, and you're having a good weekend. So, for Marissa and Zach and Emmy, I'm Bo. We thank you for listening to Birds with Friends. We'll talk to you. I mean, just at a godless hour, most likely early Monday morning. Impossible to say. It could be really ugly, but we'll talk to you then. As always, we love you.